I'm Joseph Newman. I'm sure you know what you're looking at. That's the energy machine I spent my life on. Now, Dr. Swimmer has came and saw this machine, spoke out for the benefit of humanity. He's a top mathematician at Arizona State University. He's an airman emeritus. He's retired. He teaches only to the graduate students. Now, he is not speaking for the university. He's speaking for you, the people of the nation and the world. I want you to take very carefully what he's written for you so the world will know this technology works as I've been screaming out to you. James Clerk Maxwell, well over 100 years ago, had to come to the aid of Michael Faraday when he first said there was a connection between magnetism and electricity. Prior to that time, it was taught very rigidly there was no connection between magnetism and electricity. Faraday built a little tiny motor generator, and the Queen came to see it, and it was so little, she said, "What is that?" Now, Faraday was wise, and he made this statement: "What good is a newborn baby?" And the Queen immediately understood, and then she got, because of James Clerk Maxwell, who was a great mathematician, he took what Faraday had done mechanically and put in a mathematical form, so the rest of the scientific community then got behind Michael Faraday. Now, I hope that's what Dr. Swimmer is going to do for you, the people of the world. You haven't listened to me. You haven't listened to 40 scientists over 20 years. Now, Dr. Swimmer is a top mathematician. He's been to Europe, where they treated him like a king, where he took mathematics of the 1800s and showed that you can make a computer more effective. Now, listen to what his words are.
On Friday, 12th September 2008, I had the privilege of witnessing the performance of inventor Joseph Newman's 7,500-pound prototype, affectionately named Big Eureka, of the latest version of his potentially world-changing energy machine. It was built with a 1,650-pound rotary running a 5-foot diameter flywheel mounted on a 3-inch diameter shaft. On Friday, Big Eureka was hooked up to drive a 375-pound positive displacement mud water pump. At full capacity, the pump is rated by its manufacturer to require a 10 horsepower, i.e. 7,460 watts input. Big Eureka's input was supplied by a variac, i.e. a variable transformer, hooked up to a standard 110-volt household electric plug. The variac was then adjusted to reduce the 110-volt house current to 13 volts as measured by an ordinary flute meter. With the flywheel turning at approximately 100 revolutions per minute, the ammeter was reading approximately 0.5 amps, so that the input wattage was 6.5 watts instead of 7,460 watts, and the pump was pumping water at an approximate rate of 1/3 gallon per second, i.e. 20 gallons a minute, 1,200 gallons an hour, or 28,800 gallons a day. Newman's energy machine utilizes voltage, not amperage, to achieve its remarkable power. It takes the form of a catalyst to trigger atomic alignment within the mass of the machine's copious copper windings. Energy is transferred from one atomic domain to another, thus providing both mechanical and electrical power. The machine does not produce heat when it runs, and it is non-polluting to the atmosphere. Contrary to ordinary electric motors, as the size of Big Eureka increases, the less input power it uses to produce more output power. The small input power source for the Newman energy machine can be conventional electric power, water power, solar power, wind power, or thermal power. Alvin Swimmer, Ph.D.
Arizona State University is not speaking for the university. He's speaking for himself for the benefit of you, the people of the nation and the world, exactly as James Clerk Maxwell spoke out for Michael Faraday when he made the first motor generator. Now, those devices are highly ineffective. Now, this is from the Granger catalog to show y'all what I'm talking about. These motors I have spoke out against from the get-go. Way back in 1965, it was obvious to me, because I'm mechanical. All my life, I have funded myself solving other people's problems. That's what I have on my business card. It can't be done. It interests me. Now, these motors are made by idiots. And the reason I say this is very simple. You've heard me say this on many of my tapes I got up there. Stupid is when you got facts in front of you and you ignore it. Now, notice something. Let's take this motor right here. This is from 1 horsepower to 200 horsepower. And the Granger catalog on the electrical motor sold to industry. It's the best they got. Now, look at it. This thing weighs 2,185 pounds. It's probably got a rotor in it somewhere close to 1,000 pounds. Now, they're running it at a speed of 3,565 revolutions a minute. But it doesn't get anywhere close to the numbers I just gave you. You know why? Because it's got iron throughout that machine, both in the rotor, the stator, everything in there is probably 90% of this motor is iron. Well, when I first started in this, it was obvious to me. They talk about in magnetics, as soon as you take iron, they have what they call losses, hysteresis losses. And they don't know what that is. They don't know how to explain it. They just call it hysteresis losses. And we have this, and it bothers us. To give you an idea how stupid they are, they say they got it solved by using laminations. Well, that's crap. Because see this little tiny motor right here that you got in your child's toy? Well, this little motor, you run it for about 2 minutes and then hold it, and you'll see that it's gotten hot. So does every other motor that you've ever touched in your life. Even this little motor. Now, it draws 10 amps under load on a 12-volt battery. That's 120 watts. But the heat in a motor is the current squared. So as soon as you got 10 amps going to it, you square that, that's 100. So the heat is produced gets great. Now, what happens was obvious to me. If you take your hands and you rub them together lightly, you don't feel much heat. But if you take your hands and put them together and start doing it like that, I mean, in just a few seconds, it'll get hot between both hands. Now, what are you doing? You're making compression, and you're pushing the atoms of your skin in opposite directions against one another, and it creates heat. Now, you take iron, and they even tell you about iron as when you take and put current into it, it'll create a magnetic field, get the atoms aligned in that piece of iron, and now you're going to reverse the polarity real quick. Now, 3,565 revolutions a minute, and that thing, depending on how many brakes they have on it, it can be anywhere from 2 to 20 brakes on it. It could easily be 120 reversals per second in that iron. Now, as you're doing that, those atoms in the iron create heat, and they rub against each other as they twist over. Just like you create heat rubbing your hands. You can imagine atoms in iron that are very rigid. They do not move easily. Now, in copper, it's the opposite. Copper's a soft material. The atoms, and I've always said it, they align and disalign at the speed of light with no hysteresis losses. That's why my motors do not get hot. None of them ever get hot. Why? Because I don't draw no current. It don't run off of current. It runs off of voltage, hydraulic pressure. It aligns the atoms in that mass. Exactly as Dr. Swimmer tells you in this documentation that he just signed. This will change the world. You're seeing this machine do this. There ain't a machine in the world can do what I've done here except my technology. Now, to show you this is true, watch the speed of this go up. Now, this thing can turn all the way around to 120. I ain't got nothing to go into this to give you an idea. That's going from 16 to 17 volts. Now remember, you got to 110 to 120 you can go to. Now this motor is still gaining speed. You can hear it. You can see the water, how much faster it's coming out. That's a 375-pound mud pump. You hear that speed still gaining? I'll go back there and check the RPM. That's 104 right now. And the RPM, you can see how that's going. Now I'm gonna turn it up a little bit faster. I don't want it to go too fast. I know I'll slang that copper and break those brushes. You can see how that water's pouring out of that thing now, and it's coming out with a tremendous velocity. It's almost constant. And that thing's still gaining speed. Look at it. That's probably 125 revolutions by now. And it's, again, we still ain't got no wattage going into this thing. We up to 2.5 amps. 2.5 amps now. But the voltage we got on it, is 22 volts. 22 volts. So 2.5, that's 44 watts of power. But this power has gone up, and you're seeing it by how that thing has increased so much, and the speed has increased so much. And to show you how much power this thing produces, it does all the time, watch what happens when I unplug this thing. Now I'm gonna unplug it, and it'll still keep running. It still keeps pumping. And it does that the whole time this machine is running. And it's producing its own power right now. Running a 7,500 pound machine, 375 pound mud pump. Pumping that water still with a great velocity. What he's telling you. And as James Clerk Maxwell got behind Faraday, I hope that what Dr. Swimmer's telling y'all, you will wake up and get behind this technology. He's telling you something very phenomenal. The bigger you make this machine, the more power it produces, and the less power you use, and that's an infinite relationship that will change the world. All right, and if you focus on this meter right here, you'll see how little current this thing is drawing. You're seeing that going to 0.0 something. Now occasionally it'll be 0.25. The number jumps all around. Now any engineer, because we're hooked to AC power, they want to know, why is this thing doing what it's doing? Changing all the time. The reason is very simple. That's what these scientists saw on this oscilloscope, the most accurate measuring device made, that all the scientists are looking at on this tape right before this. Y'all see them scientists awed by it. Well, I have mastered all this and turned lightning into speed and torque. That's why I can run it off of transistor batteries. It's because it is so low, and this meter is showing it to you. This is showing the current going into this system right here before it ever even gets to this transformer. It's where this is showing you this current. And look how low it is. It's not even showing 1 amp of current going into this. This is a rotary weighing 1,650 pounds. All right, read that voltage. 28.1. It's only 28 volts. Now you have an access to 120 volts. We're only using 28 volts is all that we're using. That's what this variac does. It's like stepping on the accelerator on your car. If I want it to go faster, it's very simple. I turn the voltage up a little bit. You're converting mass into energy on a 100% conversion process. And this will change the world. Now keeping it in mind, every time we double this speed, you have to square the output. That goes up phenomenally. Then you double it again, and it gets massive because you're converting mass into energy on a 100% conversion process. It'll run the industry of the world.
That's what pollutes the earth. It's not homes. It is the massive corporations that we have around the earth. Now you go to any city and see what you're doing. And that's where you will see all the destruction of the earth and the water and the tables and all that we have. This will do away with that. I have screamed this to the world. Now it is completed. It's ready for mass production. This is not a toy. This is making any other motor made by the so-called experts look ridiculous. The whole world should be behind this technology now.
And this little sign that you're seeing here that I'm holding up kind of tells the story that Joseph was just giving you. This huge machine is running on the power that little light bulb runs on. And it's pumping 30,000 gallons approximately of water a day. Think of what that could do for people that are in need of water, people in Africa, perhaps even people in the Midwest soon. And the water table seems to be going down, and we're going to need more water. We're going to need more energy. And it has the capability of pumping water from the sea. And it can be desalinized because we've got all the energy we need. And who am I to say these things? Well, basically I'm nobody. But I've been in air conditioning for 25 years. I've worked with compressors and motors and circuits. I have a pretty good understanding of them. And I can tell you this, Joseph Newman and his technology is real. It is real, real, real. And the only reason it hasn't come forward now is our indifference to it, the academic indifference to it. Because with every huge leap, quantum leap in knowledge and discovery, academia always fights it. From Copernicus to Einstein, they've fought it desperately because I think it encroaches on their domain. They don't want to hear new things. Joseph's machine and his technology and his thesis turns physics upside down, physics as we know it today. They don't want to hear it. But there's another power, a much stronger power that's been fighting him all these years. And that's what he referred to just a moment ago. It's a $6 trillion a year industry. It's the biggest industry this world has ever seen, and it's energy. And if you don't think there's an interlocking power that controls this, just look at your gasoline right now. It's down 60 cents, 70 cents from what it was a couple of months ago. How did that happen? Why did that happen? Why did it happen now? Could it be that we're having an election and the gasoline came down all over the world? Well, at least all over this country, maybe not all over the world, but all over this country. How did that happen? Think about that for a moment. He's been facing these same people. They've hurt him time and time again. They've put disinformation up there about him. They've discouraged people from supporting him. They've bribed people. They've threatened people. It is real. And all you have to do is look at the gasoline pump. 60, 70 cents came down. Whoa, nobody told us anything about this. We're just enjoying it, right? We should think about it. These are the people he's been fighting for you. And that's why this is still in a prototype form instead of something that could drive your city, could drive industry, could drive your car. It's real. Don't lay down and let the power brokers run right over us. As Joseph said, they're destroying the entire world's economy. And they're making huge, obscene profits in doing this. I just want to say that I don't understand why people haven't gotten behind Joseph. This is very real. Believe me, I've worked with this for 9 months now. That's all I want to say.